Hey everybody, Max Kevin here. It's the Little Cutie Podcast. It's not too long. Oh, so recently I've been doing this British voice. I don't know if it's actually a British voice or if it's just some dumb voice that I think is what British people sound like. But I do know that Harry Potter didn't do his homework because he's been busy sniffing Hermione Granger's underwear while she's playing Quidditch. We saw him on the camera. I know it's not a magic camera, it's just a regular camera. Even though this is a school for magic, we don't need to use a magic spell for a goddamn camera because technology exists. We don't need a fucking magic spell for every technology because we have cameras. We also have science. God damn it, we don't need so much magic, we can also use science. We're fucking human beings. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? I'm just drinking my afternoon koofies right now. A little afternoon koof. Not to be confused with the morning koof, which takes place in the morning. The last few days here, I've just been doing my morning koof. I've been doing a Twitch session, playing Hearthstone on Twitch there. Drinking my morning koof. You can watch me. Max Kevin Twitch is my handle. You can watch me drink my morning koof and play video games and just be a fat lazy fuck if you want. But I'm in Japan though, so it's exciting. It's great, it's a great excuse for me to not do work because I can be like, no, I don't have to do work. I'm trying to get followers and subscribers. This is gonna be my new job, streaming. I'm gonna be a streaming celebrity, like that bald fat dude that plays World of Warcraft and makes fucking $500,000 a year just playing a goddamn video game. Of course, I know about this guy on Twitch. His name's Crip. I don't know if you guys know Crip. He plays Hearthstone. He was famous for playing Diablo 3 like 10 years ago. He was the first person to beat Diablo 3 on hardcore. And because of that, he's been able to support himself playing video games for the last 10 years. So it kind of makes me jealous, I was playing Diablo 3 at that time. And I was also studying for the Certified Financial Analyst test. Or is it certified? I forget what CFA stands for, but I was studying for that test the same time Diablo 3 came out, and Diablo 3 kind of ruined my studies there, and I sort of failed the test, and then I stopped playing Diablo 3, so that was kind of oopsies. I didn't become famous like Crip. I could have become a professional streamer if I just played Diablo 3 all day. But instead I was studying for a financial exam that I failed. Two bad decisions. Oh, anyway, yeah, it's great, I play that in the morning, tell myself I don't have to do work. I can just play video games all day. That's sort of being productive, right? It's a nice lie that I tell myself. It's a nice lie that I tell myself, like every date I ever went on with a girl, I'd just be like, this chick totally likes me. This chick's totally gonna come back to my house and we're gonna fuck. And then it's like towards the end of the date, I'm like, you wanna go back to my place, baby? And she's like, no, drop me off. And I'm like, what about, don't you want to go back to my place? She's like, no, I don't like you. You smell bad. Now drop me off at my house. Fuck this. I'm taking an Uber, And then she just leaves. You're like, what about my kiss, baby? Anyway, I remember one time I was in Germany. When I was in Germany, I met this hot blonde German girl at a party. And all my friends were like, you can't even talk to her, Kevin. I was like, oh yeah, watch this. And I go talk to her. Get her number. I go back to my friends. I'm like, yeah, what's up? Got her number. Who wants to touch me? Then I didn't really go on a date with her. I just went, we hung out. She took me to this party or whatever with all these other German people. And at that time, my German wasn't very good, so I was just kind of standing around. And I didn't know anybody. And I couldn't really speak German. I was like, all right, well, this is fun. Give me another beer, So anyway, the end of the date there, quote unquote date. I don't know. It wasn't really a date. I think she didn't really think of it that way, I lean in for the kiss, and she's like, no. I'm like, oh, all right. I thought maybe this was, I thought you were into me, you know? That's why you gave me your number. And she was like, no, I thought you wanted to meet some German friends to practice your German. And I was like, yeah, I did, but I also wanted to make out with you because you're fucking hot, you know? She's like, well, maybe it's different culture in Germany. We think of becoming friends before dating. And I'm like, no, that's pretty worldwide. That's what a lot of dumb girls say, you know? Let's be friends first. Yeah. It's not a Germany exclusive. That happens in America too, you know? There are a lot of dumb hot girls there that just want to be friends with guys too, you know? I don't want to be your friend, baby. I want to make out and see your tits, you know? Anyway, didn't work out with her. That was the last time I saw her. I didn't go on a second date with her. Anyway, I saw the new Evangelion movie. I don't know if you guys are into that, into the Japanese animes. There's a very famous Japanese anime. It's called Evangelion. 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 Anyway, the fourth movie came out. Of course, the original TV series came in the 90s. It was written by this really depressed guy. And it's one of the best animes ever. It was great. And these are the like sort of a remake that they did as 4 movies. And I remember when I first came to Japan 10 years ago, the second movie was coming out. It was hot. It was everywhere, dude. You walk around, there's advertisements everywhere, posters, flags, flyers. You see it on TV. They're like, oh my god, the second Evangelion movie's coming out. Oh my god. This one has Asuka. She's also from Germany. And she also won't make out with Shinji because she's a prude little bitch, you know. But this one, I don't know. There's no fanfare really. I mean, I guess because of COVID. You know, that second movie, the first movie came out like 2008, second movie like 2010, third movie like 2013, and like this one's like 8 years later. It's like the time between this first movie and this fourth movie is like the time between the TV series ended and the remake movie started. It's like the same amount of time. It's like, God, what's taking so long, man? Animate that shit. Well, you can't pay poor Korean people to animate this shit, you know? Anyway, it's a pretty good movie. You know, I remember back in the day, back in high school, you know, how I first heard about Evangelion. I watched this anime music video, you know, like on YouTube. This is back in the day when like YouTube was still a young rapscallion, you know, and you could put copyrighted material on there and they didn't give a fuck, you know, because they weren't owned by Google yet. So you just put all kinds of copyrighted material on there, you know. So a lot of people, you know, they would make these like anime music videos, you know, with like cool songs and anime clips, you know. Like I remember there's a Dragon Ball Z one with I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end it doesn't even matter, you know. It's like that one with Dragon Ball fighting. And I remember when I was watching that in high school, I was like, this is fucking badass, dude. I wish I could go Super Saiyan too. That's fucking badass, you know. Anyway, so I watched this one with Evangelion there. And it was with the song Engel by Rammstein in German, you know. And Engel in Rammstein means angel, right? And you know, this anime, Evangelion, the bad guys are angels. They call them angels, right? And so that's why they use that song Engel by Rammstein. And anyway, I remember I saw that, and I already loved the band Rammstein, you know. And that song Engel is really good too. It's got a little whistle. It's like, well, I can't whistle very well, but it's got a cool little whistle, you know. Anyway, that fucking music video, that was fucking badass, dude. It had Rammstein. It's like, wer zur Lebzeit guter werden, wer nach dem Tod ein Engel werden, you know. And it's like all the anime characters doing little dances. And I was watching that, and I was like, this anime looks fucking badass. I gotta see it. And then my buddy, he had all of them on videotape, you know, because he was pretty rich, you know. And he had like the whole collection. He had the whole set. 8 videotapes, you know. This is back before DVDs. Everything was on a videotape. And, you know, the videotapes had limited capacity there. You could only put 3 episodes on the videotape there, you know. So I was like, he's like, I'll let you watch them. It's a fucking badass TV show, you know. And he'd lend them to me. He's like, I'm only going to lend you 2 at a time because I'm not going to lend you the whole series. after you watch them, give them back to me, and then I'll give you the next two. And I was like, all right. And I watched them. I just watched the whole series, and I was like, that was fucking badass. This is a badass TV show, you know? And yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that. One of the top, probably the best. It's the best. It's the best anime of all time. It's the best one. I would say Berserk is number 2, and Evangelion is number 1. And as far as, you know, if we're judging them based on the standard 26 episode comprehensive story anime, because that's another thing. A lot of these animes, they're all 26 episodes because they just air every week in Japan, right? 26 episodes, and then they do that twice a year. So it runs once, runs twice. That's 52 weeks, right? So all of these shows, they're always 26 episodes. And like sometimes they don't have that much content, you know? It's like sometimes like the 13th, and usually there's always like a big change in the story halfway through, right? The mid-season. And then sometimes like the 13th and 14th episodes are just like summary episodes because if they don't have enough story or whatever, you know? Anyway, that's just some anime information for the new kids out there. But yeah, I don't know if I can spoil. It doesn't matter, you know. Basically, the story of the original one there is this dude Shinji. He's a little pussy bitch. He's a little pussy bitch, junior high school kid, full of angst, right? And his mom died when he was a little kid, and daddy doesn't love him, you know. Daddy sent him off to school, go live by himself. And Shinji's a little whiny little bitch kid, you know, doesn't have any friends. But then daddy needs him back. He's like, Shinji, I need you, come back. And he comes back, and he's like, Dad, I'm here, I'm back. And his dad's like, get in this fucking robot and go kill this angel. And he's like, what? I thought we were going to hang out. I thought we were just going to get some hamburgers. What do you want me to do? He's like, get in the goddamn Ava. And he's like, all right, I don't know. What is this? And he gets in there, you know. And they're like, that's another thing, these Avas, right? You know, like mech anime is pretty popular in Japan, you know, like Transformers or whatever. Like they have Gundam over here, you know, they got those mechs. And the Gundams, you know, and like the Power Rangers or whatever, they're just controlling it with like a joystick or whatever, you know. But the whole different thing with the Avas is like you get this neural link with them, and you kind of move it by thinking. Like they do have controls, but it's also connected to you. And that's the whole thing why they have to use Shinji is because like the Avas themselves, they reject the pilots or whatever if they don't feel that connection with them. And spoiler alert, well, Shinji's mom died test piloting it, and then her soul got absorbed inside the Ava there, and that's why only Shinji can pilot it, because she loves her son and she doesn't like anyone else. But anyway, yeah, so he's there in the first episode. He's trying to move this thing. He's like, I don't know how to move the robot. And they're like, just think about it, you know? And then the angel like shoots his arm off. And he's like, oh, God, you know, and he can feel it, too. You know, he feels what the robot feels. Because actually, technically, it's not a robot. It's an Ava, which is like a living being. And it's just like, there's a bunch of armor around it, you know, to like restraints. It turns out later. You don't find out that later until the 16th episode or whatever, when they start eating each other. When the robots start eating each other. Anyway, so it blows off Shinji's arm. He's like, oh, God, it just blew off my arm. You know, and then he goes crazy. He's like, oh, God, ah. And then he wakes up in a hospital the next day. And he's like, I don't know, how did I get here? And they're like, oh, Shinji, you killed the angel. Good job. Good job. You know, anyway, so they fight all the angels. The angels keep coming. They keep coming back. And there's like a different one every time, you know. Because every time it dies, it learns. It adapts. So it tries a different attack, you know. So they got to do different style attacks there. And then there's other pilots too. You know, there's 3 Avas in the whole thing. There's Shinji's Ava. And then there's this girl, Rei Ayanami. And she's a clone of Shinji's mom. And she's like a robot clone of Shinji's mom and God, which is more on that later. And then there's this German girl, Asuka. And, you know, Asuka shows up like episode 8, right? And Shinji's like, oh my God, this girl, she's a hot German girl, hot white girl. I'm Japanese. I want that hot white girl tits. She's got red hair. Oh my God, I bet she's got red hair down in her special area, you know? So he's the whole series is basically teen angst. It's like him trying to get with this girl, and she always rejects him, and he's just always pissed off because he really likes her, but she always rejects him. You know. And then, it ends there. The whole world collapses. You know, Shinji. I think the story was like Shinji's dad is trying to use the Evas to kill God and become God and reunite with his wife or some shit. And then there's a whole world organization called Sele, which they're trying to. I don't know. I don't understand really what their goal was. I think the whole goal of the thing was to make the Evas was to live forever, and that's why God is trying to kill everybody with angels, because, you know, like the Tower of Babel, you know, you can't live forever, you know, so God's trying to punish you. I don't know. It was Japanese people are fucked up, you know, they make weird shit, and anyway, you know, it uses like a lot of what we call Christian mythology, like a Japanese person's understanding of Christian mythology. You know, if you were to like study like the Greek gods or whatever, and make a video game like that, like God of War, you know, it's kind of like that, but with Christianity as like what some really depressed Japanese guy that took a lot of drugs thinks about Christianity, how it could manifest itself as robots that eat each other. That's basically what Evangelion's about. You know, anyway, so the whole thing ends there. Basically, they sort of fail, and the whole world ends. But then Shinji is able to I forget exactly what happens, but anyway, the whole world restarts. The whole world restarts in the movie, or the TV show. The TV show ended with a movie, and in that movie, the whole world resets. Everybody dies except for Shinji and Asuka, and they're left on an ocean. They're left on a beach alone, like as the new Adam and Eve. And Shinji's still pissed off that Asuka never loved him, so he starts choking her, and then she puts her hand on his face, and she's like, "I don't feel so good." And that's the end. And that's how the original ended. It's great. It's a great show. You should check it out. Anyway, so these new movies came out, and it's basically the creator there of the Evangelion. There, he wanted to make it like he was really depressed when he wrote that, and so I guess he came out of his depression and he wanted to remake the series like with more of a happier ending, you know. So that's why he made these movies. And in these movies, it's kind of like it's like a remake, but it's also self-aware, and it's like an alternate universe, or rather like a recurring universe. It's like the same universe. Maybe it just keeps happening over and over again, right? And this is the next time, right? And I guess that's what this movie is. You know, there's a lot of hints about that it's just like the next iteration of the universe. Because when Kowaru wakes up at the end of the second one, he's like on the moon with a bunch of boxes of himself, and he's like the next one that wakes up. He's like, "Oh, look, these other boxes of me, and the other ones that already opened up. I guess this is the 8th time the universe has been created, just like the Matrix studio song." Anyway, I'm not going to spoil anything in the movie there, but basically, this fourth movie, it really should have just been the third movie, because the third movie, nothing really happened. The third movie is so disappointing, man. Third movie, and it sort of continues on. Because what they call that, the end of the world there, is called the second impact, third impact, fourth impact. So they call, I guess the first impact, that was when God did the flood or whatever. I don't know. But in the TV show there, it's called the second impact. That's like when they tried to first make the Evas and awaken eternal life or whatever. God punished humans by giving them the second impact, which sort of destroyed the oceans, made the oceans turn red. And then and at the end of the TV series, they do the third impact, which destroys the whole world, and then just Shinji and Asuka are left. But in this movie there, after the third impact, some people are still alive, you know? And that's what happens in the third movie. It's like all these people, they're in like this floating battleship, and it's like the whole world has gone to shit. It's like, well, how'd you make this floating battleship? Where'd you get the resources for this, man? Resources are limited. You can't just be... This thing defies the laws of physics. Doesn't even make any sense. Yeah. And then in the fourth movie, they got like another one. Because in the third movie, he triggers the third impact again, and it turns the whole world red. And in the fourth movie, like they had to build another one of these flying spaceships that kind of looks like a whale or something. I don't know what the hell it's supposed to be, but it's like, well, the whole world's red now, and people can't breathe. You gotta wear these special suits because you can't breathe in the red world. It's like, where are you getting the resources to make these space whales? That doesn't make any sense, And then, nothing really. I was watching it in Japanese, but nothing really made much sense. I didn't really. It's kind of like the end of the anime series in the movie there. Nothing really made much sense. But it was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's what. The animation was pretty cool. Animation was cool. I like that. The whole thing was I kind of wish I was on some drugs when I was watching it. I think it might have made more sense if I was on more drugs. I was stone sober, which is I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of like throwbacks in closure. Like there's a lot of like I don't want to spoil it, but at the end of the movie all the characters are like, or they explain the characters' motivations a lot better. I think this movie explained the characters' motivations. Like they just had a montage of them explaining their motivations, which is good to clear shit up, So they tried to clear up stuff that didn't make any sense through a lot of this movie. And then there's like some throwbacks, because in part of this movie at the end, like it's just like pencil and paper. And I think that was a throwback to the original series, because the original series, like the budget that ran out, so the last 2 episodes are just like nonsense, and they're on like pen and paper and just like live action shots, and everyone got really pissed off because the series didn't end, and so they kind of reference that by having these shots that are just pencil and paper, and yeah, it was cool. Check it out. I mean, overall, I like the original series better, but this one is kind of like it's like a different universe one, and it's decent, dude. It's decent. One thing about it, Asuka, she's like naked half the movie. She's like naked half the movie because she's German. She's got that FKK, Freikorperkultur, free body culture. She don't care about clothes. She's like, I'm only 14 years old. Look at my tits. It's like, man, child porn's illegal, but all these Japanese people, they like to draw. They like to draw like 14-year-old girls naked all the time. There's a lot of close-up shots of, like, her wearing underwear, Like, she'd move her legs. It's like, oh, look at this close-up shot of her vag. This is a 14-year-old girl. Ah, man. I think that's just Japanese culture, man. They got a lot of perverted people over here, That's what happens when you blur out the penises. When you blur out the vaginas and the penises in the porn, you get really perverted people that like to draw 14-year-old girls. Anyway, thanks for listening. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow.